The Democrats know if they use fear and victimization, they will get the black vote. Just listen to Joe Biden's commencement address at Howard University to hear how he's using fear and oppression and the threat of white supremacy to ensure that this generation of Howard voters will continue to be servants of the Democratic Party.
In Wilmington, Delaware, on the train station of Amtrak, carrying my folder, waiting to be picked up by a guy named Barack Obama.
You see, he has to start off with talking about President Obama. I mean, because, you know, in the black community, President Obama is royalty, even though Obama really didn't do much for black folks, and most black people recognize that, albeit begrudgingly, they recognize that fact. President Obama was not the white knight in shining armor that folks thought he would be.
First black man elected president of the United States. I was there to join him as vice president on the way to the historic inauguration in Washington.
And it's so funny how Democrats love to ingratiate themselves with black folks talking about other black people. Just listen to some of the stuff he says going forward.
A moment of extraordinary hope, but also as I stood there, and this is the God's truth, I couldn't help think about another day I stood there. It wasn't much more than your age. I just got out of law school. I'd gone to work for a big firm, but my state, because of when Dr. King was assassinated, my city parts were burned to the ground. We had a very conservative governor. He stationed the National Guard in every corner with drawn bayonets.
Now, was somebody there fact-checking this? Now, I'm sure if somebody looked into this story, it may be kind of dubious. I mean, given the history of President Biden, some of his statements usually turn out to be not true.
For 10 months, I quit and became a public defender. I used to have to introduce my clients. No, I was not so noble. I had to interview my clients down at the Wilmington train station when they were arrested on the east side. That's where they'd be taken. In the aftermath of the riots that burned Wilmington following his assassination. In 2009, while waiting for Barack, I was both living history at the same time I was reliving it. A vivid demonstration when it comes to race in America. Hope doesn't travel alone. It's shadowed by fear, by violence, and by hate.
There we go. Here we go. That's how they get you. That's how they get black people. You have hope. But no, there's always these vestiges of fear, oppression, people in white hoods coming to take your rights away. So we as Democrats have to come in and save you. Never mind that it was the Democrats who were the ones in those white hoods. It was the Democrats who were the ones taking away the rights of black folks after the emancipation and during segregation and during Jim Crow. But they won't tell you that fact. That's that dirty little secret they don't want you to know.
The federal troops went home. Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes, laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party.
But after the election and the re-election of the first black American president, I had hope that the fear, violence, and hate was significantly losing ground.
Why? Because we elected the first black president? No, that should show you because the first black president was elected that America had turned a corner, Joe Biden. But obviously that doesn't benefit those in power because they want to keep us separated and divided based upon race. They're using race. I say this over and over again on this channel. They're using race. They're using gender. They're using sexual orientation. It's a Marxist tactic to balkanize us, to, in essence, put us in different groups, collectives as they call them, so they control you. It's easier to control people when they're in a group because usually people don't want to break out of that group. See, America was based on individuality. That's what America was based upon. It was based upon the biblical principle of individuality. Now, the church as a body, as a whole, we come together. But the body each has individual members that work together in the body. But these Marxists, these socialists, no, they don't want that. They want to separate people, isolate you, and then put you in different groups. Because they can keep you isolated from other people that are different than you. Then you understand, hey, there's more that makes us alike than it is that divides us. But they don't want you to know that. So they separate people based upon external features, skin, who you decide to sleep with, and how you were born.
After no longer being vice president, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years. But in 2017, in Charlottesville, Virginia, crazed neo-Nazis with angry faces came out of the fields literally with torches.
Here we go. Here we go. Here's the rundown. This is the playbook. You're going to hear this a lot over the next year, especially if Trump is the nominee. You'll hear because they know they have nothing else to run on for black people in particular. I'm speaking of black folks now. They're already starting to lose the Hispanic vote because of what they believe when it comes to other social issues that are crippling the Hispanic community. They're conservative just like black people are. But unfortunately, black people are still caught in that matrix of the Democratic Party. Just listen what he uses. Talking about Charlottesville now, this one-off incident, he's talking about that and using it to paint the picture of this is America. He sounds very familiar to another president that addressed Howard in the 60s.
More freighted with meaning for our own destiny than the revolution of the Negro American. In far too many ways, American Negroes have been another nation, deprived of freedom, crippled by hatred, the doors of opportunity closed to hope.
Carrying Nazi banners from the woods and the fields, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s, something I never thought I would ever see in America. Accompanied by Klansmen and white supremacists, emerging from dark rooms and remote fields and the anonymity of the internet, confronting decent Americans of all backgrounds, standing in their way into the bright light of day. And a young woman objecting to their presence.
How does this apply to these graduates in the 21st century? I'm just being real. How is this speech going to inspire them to be better than their parents and their predecessors? I'm just curious.
Was killed. What did you hear? That famous quote when asked about what happened. That famous quote. There are very fine people on both sides.
That has been debunked. If you listen to the entire speech that President Trump gave during that time, that has been debunked. But he's using this as a springboard for his political run, his campaign for next year, obviously. So he's having, see, that's what, man, this dude just speaking to these graduates. I bet most of these graduates are like, man, can you hurry up and be quiet? I'm ready to get my diploma and get up out of here. This dude taking forever talking about this nonsense.
That's when I knew, and I'm not joking, that's when I knew I had to stay engaged and get back into public life. No, I don't say it for that reason. I say it for the journey. I don't have to tell you that fearless progress towards justice often meets ferocious pushback. Oh, this truth as well. Silence is complicity. Well, I believe the soul is the breath, the life, the throughout our lives. While we've never fully lived up to that promise, we never before fully walked away from it. We know that American history has not always been a fairy tale. From the start, it's been a constant push and pull for more than 240 years between the best of us, the American ideal that we're all created equal, and the worst of us, the harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart.
Dude, it was Southern Democrats who were perpetuating racism. They were the ones who were profiting off of racism. Yeah, racism is real and racism still exists, but it doesn't exist to the level that you guys are harping upon. You know, where true racism exists with these racist policies that keep people of color in bondage. That's where the true racism exists. That system that you guys have set up to keep you in power, to keep them oppressed in that sense. Yeah, that system you've set up, that you have put in place. And because of too many people not opening their eyes up to see what's going on. You see what's happening in Chicago. You got black residents speaking out about these migrants coming into their community because they voted for the Democrats 100%. But yet it shows them they take their concerns for granted. They're going to bust people into this house while they, at the same time, do not value what's going on in the community, that the people are struggling as it is. But instead of taking the resources to help them, they're going to take those precious resources to help these migrants come in from overseas, from other countries, probably illegally. That goes to show you the Democrats do not care about black people. They only care about the black vote. There's a difference.
It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
That's a straight up lie. The most dangerous threat to our homeland are the folks walking around thinking they're a man when they're a girl, and walking around thinking they're a girl when they're a man. And the ones that are terrorizing our children. You want the greatest threat to our national security is TikTok, social media. That's the greatest national threat because it's dehumanizing us, it's emasculating men. That is the greatest threat, not this fake white supremacy. Man, we're not in 1920s and 30s, but yet, unfortunately, too many of us believe this junk. It's not real. There's no man. If you believe in Jesus, I'm speaking to my Christian listeners here. If you believe in Jesus, there's no black man, white man, red man, green man that can stop you from achieving at all. Only you can stop yourself. If you buy into this garbage and believe that you are a victim, like I say over and over again on this channel, we're not victims. We are empowered for greatness. But if you believe that victim junk, you'll become a victim. If you believe that you are oppressed and buy into this stuff, you will be oppressed. The system wants to oppress you. The system wants to make you a victim. It does because it profits off of your victimization. It wants to keep you here so they can stay here. That's what people in power always do. They give you little crumbs. And unfortunately, too many black people are comfortable with crumbs. Why not eat the whole bread, the whole loaf, and build it and make it yourself? You have agency. We have agency. These people don't want you to think that you have agency. That's why they keep harping on the atrocities of black people in the past. Why does he talk about the achievements that black people have made? Why do he talk about that? Why does he talk about Howard is one of the most prestigious universities in the country, black or white? Nah, I ain't gonna say that. Nah.
Stand with leaders of your generation who give voice to the people, demanding action on gun violence, only to be expelled from state legislative bodies.
Man, they bored. They ready for him to wrap it up. And he's talking about those Tennessee lawmakers who stood in the Capitol, the legislative body, and tried to disrupt the session. That's what he's talking about. He has never once invited the children, or the parents rather, of those children who were killed in Tennessee.
To stand against books being banned and black history being erased.
Black history is not being erased, okay? Those books that are being banned are books that are degrading, books that are not suitable for children to read. And when did black queer history become essential to black history? Those are the things that are being taken care of. Now, personally, I'm not for book banning. I think all ideas should be on the table and the best idea should win. I'm not for censorship. I don't think books should be banned. I think books should be given to children at an appropriate age. These gender books, these queer books that were given to elementary students, no, I'm against that. And there should be some division, guidelines, and standards there. But I'm not for the book banning. No, because you know what people are gonna try to do next? They're gonna try to ban the Bible. That's what they're trying to do. If you get another person in office, they're gonna use this same tactic to ban the Bible. So that's why I'm against these book bannings. But the main thing, you hear Joe Biden using fear, using victimization, using white supremacy to scare black people. And that's how you know it's political season. It's political season when you know these Democrats are on the stump talking about black people as if they have to run around scared like it's the 50s and 60s and 40s and things like that again. It's not, okay? It's not. Times have changed. But the reason why, as a whole, black people have not achieved like they should is because they've listened and bought into these lies that have been sold to them by the Democrats and by Republicans and by the Uniparty and by people that want to keep them in bondage. We are not victims. We're not victims. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness.